Hey there, traveller. I'm Sheriff Josh. You might remember me from the holiday club, Trailblazers holiday club that we did back in February, or you might remember me from the ultimate showdown that I had with the British bandit. We're actually good friends now. His name's Noah, and we've been preparing very carefully in case any other bad bandits show up. Hey Noah, I've got your water pistol. Well, anyway, Amanda handed me the video camera for you guys to check on how I'm doing. We've been traveling for 1 week now to the new frontier, and yeah, just seeing how I've been doing as we travel. And I've just been looking at this here map and remembering which way we need to go to get to the new frontier. You can check it out on last week's episode, but I'll remind you what's been happening anyway with a quick reminder.
Ranger Amanda, Lone Ranger Mike, the British Bandit, Sheriff Josh, that's me, and all you cowboys and cowgirls, we all had to leave Silverton on a journey a week ago as it was getting dangerous over there. Now Ranger Amanda was afraid of leaving Silverton because she was used to all the comforts that we had. Mr. Fear got into her head, making her more afraid that we wouldn't be safe on the journey to the new frontier. But Jerry Lee reminded us of a Bible story of how God protected his people when they were leaving Egypt. Now, we've been walking for a week. We've been traveling in this barren land through the heat, and we just reached Cactus Hill Territory, also known by some as the Big Wide Bad Road. Now, Cactus Hill Territory is a land full of, well, cacti and hills, as it says in the name. We still got lots of trekking to do before we get to the new frontier.
We've been traveling and walking. We've sang songs. We've been eating from our food supply. And we've been saying, aye, yippee-yi. And if you have no idea what I mean when I say that, every single time that we say, aye, yippee-yi, you say, yippee-yay. Should we give it one more try? Aye, yippee-yi. And as I was saying earlier, we've been keeping a close eye out for any new bad bandits. And as you know, we're heading to the new frontier, and no one's ever been to the new frontier. No, not even you, Ranger Mike. No, you haven't been to the new frontier. Anyway, I've heard that it's amazing. It's safe. We has lots of food, lots of music, and yeah, it's just really safe and without fear.
Mr. Fear here. F-E-A-R. That's right, Fear. Clever lot spelling it at home. Anyway, I heard about you cowboys and cowgirls booing and cheering and hissing me at home. Well, I wasn't scared at all. Not one bit, I promise you. Anyway, after trying to scare Ranger Amanda, but unfortunately it didn't work. Anyway, today I'm thinking about Sheriff Josh. Yes, the sheriff. Well, just remember, Sheriff, out on the big wide bad road there are bandits. Big ones, tall ones, scary ones. Not a match for someone like me with my credentials. Black belt at karate, origami, and of course chopping salami. Well, someone like yourself, I think the only thing you are a black belt at is tying your own shoelaces. Well, remember, the bandits are real and they're out there and they're big, and I have weaponry. Not only am I a skilled fighter, I also am a good shot. And with this Amazon 3 for £99.99 GTX Pro from amazonprime.co.uk, this thing here is a fighter. Yes, it's fast, it's deadly, it's a great shot. Let's see if this thing works. Who loaded my gun? Was it you at home? Was it you? I'm going to get you back. I need to go clear myself up.
Coming up next up.
What was that? I think it was Mr. Fear. Was it Mr. Fear? If it was, don't forget to boo him if he appears on screen. You know, I think he's getting into my head a little bit. You know, I think I've got to tell you something. I'm starting to get really scared really just afraid that we're going to be attacked on this big, wide, bad road, that we're going to be attacked by bandits. You know, last time we were attacked by bandits, it was the British bandit, and I only managed to beat him because he felt sorry and he asked for forgiveness. And I don't know what would happen this time. I just don't think that I'm good enough. And, you know, maybe I'm just afraid that I'll be left alone, that when you guys find out that I'm not very good sheriff, that I'm not good at sheriffing, that I'll just be left here on my own. You know, God's people were also really afraid when they left Egypt. They were afraid that they were going to be left alone by God and that they were going to be attacked by the Egyptians. They were really, really scared. You know what? Maybe it'd be a good idea for us to find out what happened next to God's people and how they dealt with their fear of being left alone and of being attacked. I think one of our travelers wants to help us out and tell us what happens next in the story. So let's have a little listen to what Jeff has to tell us.
Hi everyone. This week's story is about the children of God escaping from Egypt and starting their journey to the Promised Land. Now, after the 10th plague, which we heard about last week, do you remember? Pharaoh had had enough. And he called Moses and he said to Moses, "Go, Moses, get out of my sight. I've had enough of you. I'm setting the people free." And Moses, of course, went with all the people of God, thousands of them, and with their possessions piled high on their carts and on their backs, and all their animals, and the children, of course. And off they went into the desert, the yellow sand of the desert, the blazing heat of the desert. They travelled into the wilderness and started their journey. But they weren't quite sure what way to go. Moses didn't really know where the Promised Land was. But God is good, and he sent a cloud to guide them all day long as they journeyed, and to protect them from the heat of the sun burning down on them in the shimmering heat of the desert. And at night he sent a pillar of fire, a blazing light to guide them onward and upward, and also to warm them, because the desert can get very cold at night. So God was with them. He went with them during the day with his cloud, and at night with his fire. And so all seemed fine and all seemed well. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, Pharaoh had a change of mind. He called his army and he said, "Go and bring the people of God back. Who's going to build our houses if we don't have them back here? Who's going to construct our pyramids? Who's going to do all the things we don't like doing if we don't have slaves?" And so the army jumped on their horses and into their chariots, and they galloped off into the shimmering heat of the desert to catch up with the people of God. And they galloped and they galloped, and they were catching them. And the people of God looked at the horizon, looked behind them, and they saw great clouds of dust and sand rising to the sky, and they knew that Pharaoh's armies were upon them. And they went to Moses and they complained, and they said, "Moses, why have you brought us here to die in the desert?" And Moses said, don't worry about it. God is with us. He will protect us." And God, what did he do? He moved the cloud that had been guiding them in the front and put it at the back of them, between them and the armies of Egypt. And the armies of Egypt came in, and they went into the cloud, and they got lost in the cloud. It was dark there. They got all confused. They slowed right down, and this gave time to the people of God to go on a bit further. But in the end, they got through the cloud. The Egyptians got through the cloud and kept coming on and on and on, and it was very, very frightening. And then a terrible thing happened. They came to a vast and mighty sea, raging and roaring, deep and wide, and they couldn't get across. They didn't have any boats, and they couldn't dare swim because it was too rough. And they came to Moses and they complained again, said, "Why have you brought us here to die in the desert at the hands of the Egyptians? We could have stayed back in Egypt. At least we had some bread there. At least we had some water." And Moses said, "Don't worry. Don't worry about it. God is with us." And then Moses done a most wonderful thing. He took a step of faith. He walked forward towards the water, and he stepped into the water, and he raised his staff above the water, and he prayed to God for deliverance, for help. And you know what? God performed a mighty miracle. He parted that sea. He sent a great wind to blow the sea apart, and it formed a great cavern in the middle, a great pathway of dry land for the people of God to walk through. And the waters were raging on each side, being blown up by the wind, and the people of God walked through to safety on the other side. And Pharaoh's armies, well, they saw this happening, and they galloped on down into the pathway, the dry land between the two seas. And God saw this. These enemies of God's people were still trying to attack them. And God stopped the wind blowing, and the seas came together and flooded down onto the Egyptians. And the enemies of God were destroyed. And the people of God found safety on the other side. What a great story. It's a true story. It actually happened, although mightily amazing story. You know, kids, God is a trailblazer. He blazes a pathway through the things that come against us to stop us going forward. He can make a pathway to heaven for us and help us to find the promised land. The people of God stood on safe ground, secure in the knowledge that God was with them. How wonderful. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Wow, thank you so much, Jeff, for that story. That's really, really helpful story. You know, Ranger Amanda and Lone Ranger Mike and the British bandit Noah, they actually all said that they wouldn't leave me, and if bandits did attack, that they would help me out and they'd help fight off any bad bandits. And you know, God also will be with all of us as we're traveling, and God's going to be with you. He won't leave you, and he'll always be by your side. You know, in the Bible, it actually says for us to be strong and courageous. In Deuteronomy 31, verse 7, it says exactly that, and there's a song that I know that says to be strong and courageous to help us remember. And I know that the memory verse is Deuteronomy 31, verse 8, but verse 7 is also really good, and it comes just before that. And you know, I can see just Mortimer over there. He's setting up the campfire, so maybe I should just grab my guitar over here.
Must be strong and be courageous, not be afraid or terrified. Even when everyone's against us and we want to run and hide, the Lord himself, he goes before us. His commands must be obeyed. So if we stay close by his side, we never have to feel afraid. We must be strong and be courageous, not be afraid or terrified. Even when everyone's against us and we want to run and hide, the Lord himself, he goes before us. His commands must be obeyed. If we stay close by his side, we'll never have to feel afraid. We must be strong and be courageous.
one last time really fast.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We must be strong and be courageous, not be afraid but terrified. Even when everyone suspects that we have to run and hide. Oh, just don't be no resist and there must be a fate. If we stay close by inside, we'll never have to feel afraid. So there you have it. That's Deuteronomy 31, verse 7. And let's see if we can actually remember Deuteronomy 31 verse 8, which is our memory verse. I think Ranger Amanda is just going to help us out and read it out. Let's see what it is.
The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Do not be discouraged. Do not be afraid. Deuteronomy 31 verse 8.
All right, thank you so much, Ranger Amanda. Maybe we could just rewind that and listen to it one more time. And maybe cowboys and cowgirls, you can try and join in this time. And I'll say it with you as well.
The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Do not be discouraged. Do not be afraid. Deuteronomy 31 verse 8.
So there we have it. I hope that you managed to join in with the memory verse and with the song. But before we go, there's just a few more things that I would like your help with. And the first, aye, yippee-yi. That was the first one. And then the next one is just that we have a few challenges lined up for you, which we're going to explain very, very soon. But before I head off, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you guys today. It's been really helpful having you guys just come along and just help me out. And I know now that I don't need to be afraid. I know that God is with me. I'm going to hand over the video camera to someone else, so next week you can find out how someone else is getting along on our journey and just see how far we're getting along on our trek to the new frontier, which no one has been to, not even Lone Ranger Mike. But I better be off now. I need to go and tune my guitar. It's a little bit out of tune, but I'll be seeing you next week at the campfire worship, and it's been a pleasure being with you today.
Well, hello there, cowboys and cowgirls. I wonder how you got on with our challenge that we set you last week. You know, here I am, I've come somewhere new on my journey into the new frontier, and your challenge was to go and visit somewhere you've never been before. So, this is part of our weekly roundup where we look at the pictures that you sent through to us. So, let's have a look at some of those pictures now. And if you took part in this week's challenge, well done. You've done a rootin' tootin' fine good job, and you'll be getting some gold nuggets, virtual of course, but well done for taking part. Have a look at this. So it's time for this week's challenge now, and so if you're good at making stuff, and even if you're not, that's the challenge for this week. Have a looky here at this about what your challenge is, and you have got till this Friday at high noon, the 21st of August, to send your pictures of those things that you've made to us if you want to be in our next week's weekly roundup. All right, aye, yippee-yi. See ya.
Can you make a 3D model of Moses and the people crossing the Red Sea. You could use Lego, like this, or you could use some junk modeling or something else. Minecraft. Deadline is high noon on Friday the 21st of August.